Hello and welcome to Geology, a channel dedicated to making concepts in biology simple, easy to understand, and interesting. I have always been talking about making concepts understandable. But now in this video, we are going to actually try to explain how to remember. So it's not only about understanding, but it's going to be about remembering, because understanding is really very different from remembering. But before we move ahead, let us let me introduce myself, and I would also like to hear from you about who you are. So I'm Sanchita. I come with about 2 decades of experience in a dual career of an academician and an HR. I am a postgraduate in botany with a 4th rank in the University of Madras, and I have done my graduation also in botany, and there as well I hold a university rank of a 2nd rank in the University of Mumbai. I have done my 10th standard from Rosebud School in Patna, that is in with ICSE board, and I was a school topper and a city topper as well. And I am also a certified lecturer, having qualified my CSIR, UGC CSIR NET. All of this is not really to boast about myself, but to tell you that whatever I'm going to talk to you about, whatever techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you today are all tried and tested, and the results are what I just shared with you. So I would suggest that you sit with a pen and a paper so you can note down and see to it about which techniques applies to you. Everything does not apply to everybody, but whatever does apply to you, you can use them. On the personal front, I'm talking to you from Chennai, and I have a flair for fine arts, and in till my college days, I used to be an athlete. Today also I am a yoga enthusiast. So that's in a nutshell about me, and I would request that you introduce yourself as well, talking about which city you are coming from, and what is your name, your age, and your occupation. You can type it out in the chat box, and then let's begin. Yeah. So let's start with how our brain really works. First thing is, see, there's a lot of difference between remembering. There's a difference between recollecting and memorizing. We are not talking about memorizing in this video. When we are talking about remembering, I'm going to be explaining you about the steps in which the brain creates a memory. So there are 3 steps. The first one is encode, retain, and retrieve. And whenever we are learning new concepts, there is a function called neuroplasticity. Don't bother about this term, and really you don't need to remember this, but neuroplasticity is an ability of our brain which allows it to form new neural pathways. So whenever we are learning something, when we are studying something, we form new neural pathways. The brain also alters existing pathways, and then it adapts and reacts to different ways, when we are learning. So there is a model of memory which is called the Atkinson Shiffrin model, which says that for us to be able to remember, retain, and recollect, the brain, there are few stages which we go through, and if each of these stages are not happening properly, we tend to lose out some information. So the first thing is, for us to remember anything, first our senses need to be active. Meaning, like, say, first you need to be present in the class. When you are present physically, you need to be alert. So when you are in the class, you are seeing the board, you are listening to your teacher. So your ear and your eye are both, they are receiving the inputs. But in case you are not paying attention, in that case, that input is not moving on to the sensory memory. And unless it moves to the sensory memory, the information would be lost. Now, assuming you are paying attention and the information has moved to the sensory memory. So from there, it has to move to the short-term memory. So once it has moved to the sensory memory and you're paying attention, you're able to understand things, it moves to your short-term memory. In the short-term memory, we need to rehearse. The more the rehearsal happens, the more these neural pathways are formed, the more time the more we rehearse, these neural pathways keep getting used again and again, and they become strong. And that is when the long-term memory gets created. So unless that is done, even if we are listening and even if we are understanding, we have understood everything what the teacher taught in the class, but we did not come back and practice at home, in that case we are bound to forget. So what has essentially happened is that the short-term memory has not got transferred to the long-term memory, and hence we may forget. So now let's look at the techniques for remembering. There are a whole lot of techniques, trust me, which I have in my kitty. But due to paucity of time, we are going to talk about few techniques today, and we'll see the remaining ones as in the subsequent sessions. So let's start with the visual techniques, because these are the easiest and there are a whole variety of which you can use. The first one is mind mapping. Now, what is a mind map? Generally, mind map is a tool which is used for problem solving, wherein whatever comes in the mind is put on the paper. So a central topic is taken, and then whatever thoughts come around it in the mind are randomly put, and then a logic is built around it. But we are here going to use mind mapping in a slightly different way, and that's mainly for remembering. So we choose the central topic. In this example, as you can see, the central topic is health. From this, we form different branches, and in each branch, we take up one idea. So in this example, we are looking at factors for good health. So we're seeing the spiritual conditions, the medicines which are needed for good health, food, the genes, and the environment. So each of these main headings are going to be the broader lines, and whatever content comes in that will go into the shorter lines. So mind maps basically help in promoting associations and connections. And to make the mind map more effective, it's better that you use keywords and not big phrases. use short phrases, use lot of colors, use lot of images, because then your mind map will be, you'll be able to link the concepts and there will be a logical connection. So let's see some more examples. This is the mind map of the excretory system. In this mind map, the branches are all curved lines, and you can see that this pretty much covers everything in the uh, in this topic. You can see there are disorders. You can see there is how is urine formed, what are the other excretory organs, what is glomerulus, what how does this the excretory system look like, the modes of excretion and everything else. Pardon me for the background noise. There is some background that is happening and we do not have a control on it because it's happening outside. And from this, let's move on ahead. So when you are looking at this mind map, you're basically covering all the topics, or everything that you know about that topic. You are putting it into the mind map, and um, whenever you are recollecting it, you will be able to see everything in one place. And when you're putting it, your mind, since you're putting them in each heading, you are actually able to organize your thoughts, and you're putting them in a logical manner, so that helps you to remember. And while recollecting, you go through the mind map again and again, and you would be able to recollect it. Suppose if this mind map looks very confusing to you with these curved lines, you can also use straight lines instead of curved lines and make it very neat on a paper. Usually mind maps are done on a horizontal page so that you're able to cover maximum information on the mind map. Let's move on to the next one. If you have questions, you may please put them on the chat, and we can, if not, then maybe we can go ahead. So the next one is the flow charts and the tables. So the flow charts, tables, and charts are uh, different tools again which you can use for visualization. Generally, you use flowcharts when you have, say, for example, your content has different types. So you can make something like this, what is given here in the nervous system, where the types can be made into a flow. Or if you are explaining, or if you are trying to remember a big long process, say for example the process of digestion, you can put them line by line into a flow, so that will help you to remember again. Another example which I have given here is that of blood clotting, where you're using only phrases. So whenever you look at it, you get the entire flow about what is happening. How does the tissue get injured? What gets released? What kind of proteins are used? How is the process of, where does thromboplastin come in? And how does the blood clotting happen? And everything around it. So that's about the flow chart. So you can use it for arranging the types. You can also use it for different processes. Then let's see the next one, which is your, I am not describing the tabular columns and charts right now, because there's a whole lot to cover. Basically, it's very simple. You can understand when we say tabular columns, if you have differences, say you have things like, you're discussing about the types of respiration. So you have aerobic respiration, you have anaerobic respiration, and Then you have a whole big paragraph of what is aerobic respiration and everything about it, and what is anaerobic respiration and everything about it. So to concise it and then make it easy to remember, you can put that in a tabular column with like how you put differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and you put the points there, so it becomes very easy for you to remember. um, Similarly, if there are certain things like, for example, the digestive enzymes. Now, different organs produce different digestive enzymes which act upon different uh, you know uh, different food particles. So you can put that also into a tabular column, so that will become very easy again to remember. So like multiple information of similar pattern can be put into a tabular column. Let's look at the next one, which is your mental visualization. So mental visualization, you're not really doing anything on paper, but when somebody is explaining something to you, or when you're reading something, or when you're hearing something, you visualize it. For example, there is an affirmation in Think and Grow Rich, which says that money flows to me in avalanches of abundance. So money flows in avalanches of abundance to me. If you have to really remember this sentence, even I spoke it differently both the times, but if you have to remember this, understand what is avalanche. Avalanche is like, when I'm telling you what avalanche is, try to visualize it. When there is a landslide and there is a whole lot of landmass which is falling at great speed, or in the North Pole there is a big iceberg which is breaking and a whole chunk of ice is falling. In that way, money is falling to you in big chunks. So that is, money flows in avalanches of abundance to me. Now, if you have to recollect this sentence now, you will have the picture, a mental picture of money flowing in that way to you. So you'll be able to speak it out better than a bland statement which you have to remember. I hope I'm able to explain the mental visualization technique. Yeah. Great. So let's move on to the next one, which is the mnemonics. Mnemonics are tools which help to remember, uh, you know, uh, they act like some sort of a chit, or some kind of cheat sheets, when you use cheat sheets to remember. So mnemonics are tools which help you to connect and remember things. For example, say there are acrostics and acronymics, both of which come under mnemonics. Acrostics is when you take the abbreviation and make a sentence out of it. Now, suppose you want to remember the order of taxa in biology. So in biology, you know that whenever there is an organism that has to be classified, uh, we start from species and we go up to the domain. So we have species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, and domain, and you have to follow it in that same order. So if you want to remember that order, you can take the first alphabet and form an acrostic out of it. The acrostic here is, Dear King Philip came over for good soup. Then there are other common, in your CBSE, those who are studying CBSE, the Standard 10 CBSE book has um, a chapter on living life processes, wherein we talk about common attributes of living things. So if you want to remember these common attributes, you can form an acronym, which is Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren is, again, the first alphabets of movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Then you have, of course, rainbow, which we all know. The colors in the rainbow are in the order of Vibgyor: violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. So that's acronym. And when you form a sentence out of it, then that becomes what is called as the acrostic. Yeah. Another example from biology is the flow of blood in heart. So we know that the blood moves from the body tissues to vena cava. It goes to the right atrium, then to the right ventricle, then to the pulmonary arteries, to the lungs, and from the lungs it comes through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium, the left ventricle, aorta, and then goes back to the body tissues. The aorta takes the blood from the heart and takes it to the body tissues. Now, inside the heart, as the blood moves through all these different chambers and through all these different blood vessels, it becomes sometimes confusing to remember the flow, whether it's moving from the ventricle to the atrium, or from the atrium to the ventricle, or is it the pulmonary artery which is taking it from the heart to the lungs, or is it the pulmonary veins which is taking it from the heart to the lungs? It gets confusing sometimes for students. So if you realize, first you make the movement of blood in a flow, and once you have made the flow chart like I have made it here, you will realize that from the blood tissues it goes from vena cava, V, atrium, A, again ventricle, V, again pulmonary artery, A, pulmonary veins, V, left atrium, A, V, and A. So you're seeing a pattern that helps you to remember. So you can form similar patterns in whatever you are trying to study and trying to remember. Yeah. The next one. This is the most effective, one of the most effective study techniques. And it's a very, very effective memory technique as well. That is recite and teaching. Reciting is, I'm sure almost all of us would have experienced it. When we were young, we would study and then go back to our mother and she would say, "Tell me, what did you study?" So we would recite whatever we did and we would read it, we would speak it out to her. And then she would find out what we missed, what we made mistakes, and so on. So that is reciting. So you read something and you recite it in front of your friends, or in front of your teachers, or known people, and so on. So that helps a lot. The other one, which is extremely useful, is teaching. You really want to remember something, read it and try to teach it to somebody. There is a science behind it. It's not just about helping someone. When you are actually trying to teach, your mind, your brain gets a lot of clarity. A lot of mental clarity comes in, and your brain reorganizes the entire information in a very logical way in which you are going to explain to a person. That is different from when you are actually preparing for exams or when you are preparing for writing. When you want to teach, your brain will go through an entire process by itself, and that organizes and reorganizes the content in a very, very logical way. And those neural pathways are really very strong. And when you actually deliver that teaching, you would have gone through those neural pathways and strengthened them. And when you want to recollect, the first thing the pathway the brain will take is the one which is strong, and you will be able to collect it and recollect it in exactly the way in which you have prepared yourself for teaching. It's a very, very effective tool. Try it out for yourself. Of course, it helps in to add a lot of revision to you, no doubts about it. Let's also come to a few biology specific methods. Say if you want to remember biological terms. So understand the prefixes and suffixes, because most of the biological terms have a lot of prefixes and suffixes attached. If you understand what the prefix means, it will become very easy for you to understand all the terms with the similar prefix. For example, if you have poly is a very common prefix in the biology terms. Poly means many. So you have polycephalus, polypetalous, polygamy. So polycephalus is one where there are lot of sepals. Polypetalous is one a flower which has many petals. Hypo, which means under or less. Hypogeal, hypodermic, hypotonic, hypothermic. Hypogeal is below the ground. Hypodermic is below the skin. Hypotonic is a solution which has less uh, solute in it, so it's a dilute solution. Hypothermic means something which is cold, which has less temperature. Amphi is means all kinds or both. So amphibious, an organism which lives both in water and in both bios, in both has two types of life styles. Amphibolism, like you have anabolism and catabolism, together they form together it's called amphibolism. So these are some prefixes. So if you understand the meaning of the prefix, you will be able to remember the terms. You will not when you are trying to remember the terms, it will get very easy. It will not be like memorizing them, but you will have a meaning assigned to it. Similarly, suffixes. You have ectomy. Ectomy basically means removal. So when you say appendectomy, which means removing the appendix, so an operation which removes appendix. Ostomy means cutting or making an incision. So when there is nephrostomy, which means removing the nephron or removing the kidney. So that is or making an incision into the kidney for removing urine. Sorry. So when you understand the prefix and suffix, it gets very easy for you to remember the terms. Then you also there's another way wherein you have a term which is not really a prefix or a suffix, but it comes inside the word. So there again, it becomes easy to remember something which we understand. So remember the root word. Say when we say bios, bios means life. So biosphere is the place on earth, the layer of earth in which life exists. Biology, the study of life. Abiotic, meaning one without life. So when you know the meaning of the root word, it becomes again very easy to understand or remember the term. Similarly, alba, which means white. So when you have albino, which or albinism, a skin condition where there are white patches, or materia alba. Materia alba is the white flake-like substances which are formed on the tooth or on the tongue. So that is alba. Rubra means red. So Morus alba is white mulberry. Morus rubra is red mulberry. So when you know the meaning of the term, it gets easy to remember. The practice of recollection. When you want to recollect something, as I have been saying, the more stronger the neural pathways are, the better it is. It's not always possible for us to go on reading everything every day. But whenever we come across certain terms which we know, I would suggest just stop, connect that term with what you have studied, and go back and check it. Say, for example, if you're seeing an advertisement of a cooking oil where it says it is the oil has PUFA. PUFA is polyunsaturated fatty acids. Right. So say omega-3 fatty acids. These are polyunsaturated fatty acids. So when you say PUFA, just stop, think, what is PUFA? If you do not remember, go back, check your content. and then connect it. And whatever else is there along with it, just read it out. So you would have read only a small portion, but it will stick to your mind. Or if somebody is vomiting, vomit is a normal English word, but there is a biological word for it or a technical word for it, which is peristalsis, antiperistalsis. Peristaltic movement is the movement of your food pipe, the muscular movement of the food pipe, which helps the food to move down. Antiperistalsis is just the opposite, where the food gets thrown up. So if you see somebody vomiting, the term antiperistalsis should come to your mind and you should think about it. If not, go back and check. So then you will be able to remember. So that's one of the ways where you keep reviewing, and then when you have to recollect, it'll become very easy because you would have really strengthened your neural pathways by then. And coming almost to the fag end of it, maybe I'll take a minute more. Diet plays a lot of role in anything. So there are a lot of things that you can eat which strengthens memory. For example, sweet potatoes, walnuts, almonds, fatty fishes, which has these omega-3 fatty acids, peanut butter, leafy vegetables. These are all food which are good for memory. So incorporate them in your diet and you will see a healthy trend in you. Last but not the least is you are taxing your mind a lot for remembering things, for studying, for focusing, but you have to give it sufficient rest. Even a machinery cannot operate for 24 hours. Your brain is much more complex. So balance your activity with rest. Incorporate physical exercise in your daily routine. You will find happy hormones being created, which will help you, which really energizes, which changes the mood. It also helps in gives a lot of psychological strength, and that helps again uh, to take things to do things with interest, and of course then that adds into the memory. Taking power naps for 10 minutes, 15 minutes between two activities. You finish an activity, take a power nap for 10 or 15 minutes. You'll see a difference. If you do that in the afternoon, you'll start again fresh. You will feel fresh when you start again. And then 6 to 8 hours of undisturbed sleep to give your brain the time to shut down and then reboot. It helps. It really helps. A fresh mind will have better focus, it'll have better memories, and you will be able to remember and recollect much better. So with that, I wait for any questions from you before we actually close this session. So if you have any questions to ask, please put that in the chat box and I'll try to answer them here. And please do let me know, how do you find the session. Do put in your comments and let me know what could have been done better, and also about what did you like in the session, and what else do you expect. There are a lot more other techniques and methodologies that we can take up, and I will be taking that up again in 2 weeks from now, on the next Sunday, which is on the 24th of December. So there we are going to see other techniques which you can use. I do not see any questions from anybody here. right? So if there are no questions, then yeah. So if thank you so much, Ankita, and if there are no more questions from you, then we'll call it a day for today. And I hope to see you again in my next session on the 24th. Thank you so much, and do like, share, and subscribe Geology by Sanchita. Thank you so much, and see you again.